morning, everyone. This is Scott Stengel from Melco Applications here with my pal Nate Moore from Applications. Today we're going to spend a little time talking to you about the Custom Shapes feature in DesignShop. So what is Custom Shapes? Well, I guess a definition would be it stores your most used shapes and symbols so you can paste them into designs. That's one feature of it. Sort of like a turbocharged clipboard for DesignShop, which rather than in the past I used to save individual files in a folder of stuff that I would use all the time. Yeah, registered marks, all this kind of stuff. And so this is a faster way to do it rather than have to go look up the folder and the file and all that stuff. Just a really good way to paste frequently used shapes and things like that. So I pre-populated with 50 embroidery designs, symbols, clip art shapes were already there to give you some ammunition, but the point again wasn't really to use mine, as to give you a hint that, oh, I can add to this, and so I'm going to do the stuff that's important or that you use in your business all the time. Something like, let's say that you use the same design for Boy Scouts or something like that, and you add individual names or den numbers or whatever, stuff like that. Rather than go find the file, you can just paste it each week, add the week's names to it, and sew it like that. So where is this? Custom Shapes is located. I have to lower the resolution so that you guys can see. Well, then the two screens start fighting and they don't want to let the mouse go from screen to screen. Okay, so here's Custom Shapes right here. Brings up a window at the bottom, and it's split into different categories. Other than the 50 that I told you are in here, another thing I want to explain is we use it to modify or create decorative stitches, pattern fills. You can even create your own tie stitch type if you have a better shape than any of our 1 through 5 that we use. You can store that and use it as a tie-in, a tie-off, or both, and check the angle and all that. It can be a useful feature. Some people with strange applications, like I was over in Switzerland, those big shuttle machines that are like 40 yards long. It's very important their tie stitches work correctly because they have like thousands of needles. So they had totally exotic tie-in stitches. Some of them would go 8 millimeters up and come back down and stuff, and they were just loving that feature.
We're not suggesting that.
No, don't do that unless you have a shuttle. Their machine is different. Instead of a bobbin, it's got a plastic shuttle that goes back and forth. So they have to have a lot of thread on the first stitch to get around that. Anyway, we'll leave that. The other thing that the Custom Shapes can do for you is give you consistency in your designs. A great example, probably my favorite, is right here, the registered mark walk stitch. You know, we would give people choices. Do you want to leave it out? Do you want it the size that it is in your art, which basically makes it like a dot, so show that it's there, and that was good enough for some people. Or I'm going to enlarge it and I'll make it the smallest possible size that I can. And so that's what I did here. You take time, you make them as perfect as you can, you store them, and then for 100 years you paste them and they're just perfect. All right.
Those ones right there, the copyright and the registered, were the ones that I was always going back to find the file to go find.
Yes.
And then for me, back when I was doing this in college, a lot of our customers were college bookstores. So we would have versions of specific mascots, and you had to use this version. No matter what the rest of the artwork was, you had to use this chunk, right?
Oh, wow.
So go find that file, copy that. It would have been so nice to have this and be like, oh, here's the right K, and here's the right mascot, and here's the right whatever. So I would have loved this thing.
Yeah. What I haven't tried it on is expanded stuff. Have you ever tried that? Putting expanded files in there? I've just done wireframe.
Put me on the spot in the middle of a live.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Haven't tried that.
Another common one shape that's used that I see in designs that come back through. It's funny, I put the stuff in the software and then people use it in designs, maybe a part of the design. Of course, not my part. would have some trouble, lock stitch problem, whatever, settings usually, and it would come back through and I'd see it. I'd say, hey, that's the star that I know I put in there.
I use your stars.
Yeah,
not infrequently.
they can be a little bit tricky, and so basically the three that I used to use: small, medium, and large. Of course, the small you just get through horizontal stitching and just pray that it comes out. The medium's a little bit different, and the large one is really kind of nice because the stitches change, the angle changes, and it reflects the light, and it's pretty good. Okay, so let me just open up a design.
So Sam is in here too, and she said she uses her own as well as the ones that are in here, and Mike is being punny. But as people are chatting in, I'm trying to follow along. So if you guys have questions or comments about this, please do that, and I will try to get those back over to Scott as quickly as I can.
All right, here's one that we're using in trade shows lately. So just to say, this is a basic logo that I digitized, and it is a registered logo, so they do want the mark there. So easiest way is to click and then just drag it to the screen, and when you let go, it shows up. One common thing I do see, sorry I'm hammering on the registered mark today, but it is important. People tend to paste it to where it will trim and then sew just these few stitches and trim again. Not always the best choice because you add tie stitches for in, tie off. It's better to walk down from it. No one would know this, but I'm going to explain it. So the way this starts is over here. So normally what you would do is you'd come around here with, say, the detail stitch, and then you would stop, walk out, sew it, walk in. Now this would be much, much closer, and it's hard because there's so many nodes in here. You're going to put it close to the shape, not far away.
Ours were often walk stitches either off of because this was back in the day, off the underlay of the last letter, or I'd finish it and then do that and then move on to another chunk somewhere else. So
yeah, that's right.
Type of thing.
Usually, I've done that a bunch of times where it's not the final part of the final color.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so to paste them, and there's a bunch of common ones in here. There's different categories of closed shapes would cover. Man, I got so tired of doing rounded corner rectangles that finally you just take one, do it perfect, and store it. So we did them hollow, we did them filled. I also gave you a sample of shading, so you can use it if you like, or study the properties, or do whatever.
Reshape it, what else?
Yeah, reshape it to fit yours. Decorative stitches are in here too. These are the motif for the open walk stitch pattern, either walk stitches or fills. And then digitize your own custom tie stitches, and then of course sequence stitches. So we'll go back to the common symbols one right here. Okay, so to paste them, click here, then drag it to the screen. It will paste it at 100% of the stored size as well as in the right orientation that it was stored in. Another one that's kind of cool, I guess if you had polka dots or fish spots on a trout or something like that, a way to do it is to double click here and then double click on the screen. Wherever I double click, it pastes them at 100% at the same orientation. So you can go crazy with this kind of thing. All right, so drag or double click and double click on the screen where you want it.
I love that one.
The other one is with this selected, I can single click, and then as I move, this is a little bit hard to see because it's a walk stitch, I can enlarge it. And so when I click, it showed up upside down. I'll do it again. I'll show you what it would look like straight up and down. This, you can change the orientation and the side. It also is coupled with some of our constraining keys. I don't know what those are called, but like Alt will keep it horizontal when you drag things. This will center it from the center outside. So let me show you that. So I have it selected here. And as I click and drag, if I hold Alt, let me switch to this one, which will be easier to see. Okay, we'll try that again. So we double click, and then as I come up and out, if I hold Alt, it's going to scale from the center. So it's going to proportionally scale and from its origin itself. If I use Shift, it grows from the lower left corner. So either choice there. This can be very useful also. So now you know all the ways to paste the shape into the design that you have. Next is how to add a new design. So like I said, the point isn't really just to use mine, it's to add to your library the stuff that you use the most often. We're going to just use a common example. Do we have any questions? I haven't been asking.
I'm sorry, I was responding. Sam wrote a bunch. Customer reviews. I create a disclaimer and other notes as vector files and save them. Huh? So Sam says for customer proofs, she creates disclaimers and other notes as vector files and saves them off as shapes in a category.
Wow.
For disclaimers, I think that's very clever.
And then paste them in the design.
Yes, right up where you need them to go, and then boop, they're there. I think that's very smart.
That's unique. Good job, Sam.
And then, yeah, we've got lots of people saying, hey.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Glad you could join us. Okay, so to add whatever you'd like to your library, I'll just recycle these guys. You select whatever you want to store, and then there's two ways to do it. One, I can right-click inside of the window, and at the bottom is Save Custom Shape. This is going to be a custom design, and then I might call it, whatever, Reg 12 or however many I have. And then the category name of where I want to put it's normally going to be.
The big difference in shapes and designs is, do you have stitches, do you not?
Yes, right, exactly. And so this will store it here. The other way to store it is right here, add current. So I select whatever I want, I add current, same thing comes up.
That's funny. I had completely forgotten about that because I always use the right-click menu.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I totally had forgotten that button was there.
Because for other things, probably not like this, like decorative stitches.
Whatever, yeah, I'm always just right there, right-click, go.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how to store them. Select the category. So another question comes up sometimes is, well, I want to make my own new category, right?
I was just trying to remember how to do that.
Well, I refreshed my memory from your manuals that you wrote because this isn't common stuff that I do, and so 10 years goes by and I forget. So I had to have a refresher. So anyway, you did a good job. But yeah, that's the way it gets if you don't use it so often. Okay, so this is highlighted. We'll go with Nate's, right click. And then we go Save Custom Shape. The shape name here again could be, we'll just do Reg Test, just for something like that. Like Samantha was explaining, usually her new stuff has a temp name till it gets like, yeah, this works, and then you make it official so they don't get mixed up. So the category name, I have to, pick this. If I don't want one of these folders, I can create my own folder by just typing.
I remember that now.
Isn't that so easy?
I totally remember that now.
So, whatever, reg marks or something like that. And then a reg test would be what it is, and then I would add it, and then I would have additional. You can see my reg marks folder that I created there. So this can get pretty complex. Also, if you want to back these guys up separately, inside your DesignShop folder, there's going to be embroidery folder symbols.
Yep.
Inside. You can find them all there. They're basically, each one is a separate OFM file is the way that it works. So that's what you'll see. Okay, so how to make new, how to delete. Well, that's kind of pretty simple. You just right click and you have delete here and it just confirms. Also, if you try and save something as something that's already that name, it's going to prompt you with, do you want to overwrite it? So safety in there. Still good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so how do we create new real fast? Close this guy up. We have a new window here. So we know how to do basically parts of designs. We will next. I'm going to show you how to store a decorative stitch. So you start with artwork, right? You know, what are decorative stitches? Well, here's short stitch, here is decorative, and we give you a library right here. So I could pick, I don't know, diamonds. And then wherever my walk stitch, I get the pattern. Also, I can use it in a fill. These are located under decorative stitches. How unique. This is everything that comes with the software, and you can add your own to it. All right, so we'll make our own. How do you do that? I will start. Find my folder again real quick. Bear with me. So this is, as you can see, just a vector, no stitches. You can get artwork from, you know, wallpaper samples or textures, or there's just all sorts of stuff all over the place. I don't know, this you probably dreamed up on your own. This came out of the manual. I just copied it. Who knows, huh?
Yeah, I don't remember where I pulled that from. I a lot of times will look at repeating patterns in nature, so think of like honeycomb.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something like that.
Which is a killer one I'm going to show you that we did.
Yeah,
the snake,
cool. Okay.
snakeskin one we call it. Yeah. So wherever you get this art, you would bring it in, and in this case, I digitized a vector line, but you could also bring vector line art in and make stuff from it, right?
Yep.
So yeah, unlimited. And so what I do to make a decorative stitch is I will just click in this case. It helps also turn on your center, turn on your grid. Just helps you see better. So I will grab the walk stitch. Now, when you make decorative stitches, you want to be really precise because you know you're going to repeat this a lot of times. Use it very often, such as when my start point and my end point. You know, you want them to be parallel, right? Like not different. You don't want to step up every time or it's going to be goofy. So you can do stuff like snap the grid on, use the grid, all this to help make your shapes, you know, really precise and accurate. So I grab my walk stitch and I will just do this real quick. Curves on here. I did a really cool design a bunch of years ago, all out of decorative stitches. I don't know if anyone's seen it at the shows and all, but it's pretty cool. There's no end to this. The other thing that decorative stitches do for you is you can use filled areas, but you're not pounding them with stitches. If you need an open look or you want something different, you can do a fill in a decorative instead of a solid step fill, and you really get some cool, impressive, different looking results that can be kind of exciting. All right, so then I'm going to finish there, enter. I'm going to have a look at this and see that I got everything correct. So right up here is, sorry, where's the one, not auto merge, where you see the details.
Sorry?
Right here. No toggle stitches. There we go. The point list.
That one.
So this shows I get an arrow here so I can expand it. Now you can see that I've got the XY coordinates of each one of the nodes that I put in. So it starts at Y of 0, and 68. I go to the end, it's 67 and 0. So I have the same Y value It's 1 point shorter than the other. Just make sure that it ends on the same line that it starts. Okay, so once we've got our our stitch put in, then we want to save it as a decorative stitch. So what I do is right click in the box like we showed you earlier, save custom shape. This is going to be a decorative, and I will call it, I don't know, loop test. There isn't different categories because decoratives all go to one folder, and then I do that. Now, it stores it and can be used right away. You don't have to restart DesignShop in order to register it or something like you do with the alphabet. So once I create it, I can use it right away. And all I do is, I'll show you in a walk stitch instead of a normal. I'm going to pick decorative, and I'm going to go find loop test right there. Now, as I digitize a walk stitch, it shows up as loops, so on and so forth. Also, I can grab fill. I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, and I will make a fill, and I will select it. I will change it to decorative, and I will find my loop test pattern, and you can see it looks pretty cool. It could be better. Get rid of this so it's not confusing.
How could it possibly be better?
I like them when they're interlocked, like woven together, and all that kind of stuff is pretty cool. So this controls graphically the spacing between chunks, shapes, what do you call them, and then this controls the angle, so if they're straight up or if they're offset, and what the distance is between the lines. So I'm gonna stretch this one out. I'm holding Alt, and you can see that I pulled it down, and you know, they're interlock and spacing. You can do all sorts of stuff. Yeah, right there. If I do properties, it's hard to shrink this down after high res. Yeah. Here you can see that I have control over the width of the shape, the height of the shape, and the spacing.
So we were talking about saving things, saving shapes, saving whatever. Jane is asking if so she had a truck custom digitized, and apparently they did the windshield fairly cool, where you can see through it. And can you save those stitches? How could you save that type of stitch?
Have to see that, right?
Right. That's where I was, and so it's, what does it look like? Is it kind of an open density? Is it a decorative stitch that they've used? I mean, I could see that being applied, and yes, you could totally save either, if it's, you know, if it's wireframe, you could save the whole shape.
Yes.
To then pull back in and reshape yourself, but you've got all those properties held in there. That would be one way to do it. There are ways to save fills, but I think that's more of a straight fill, not something like that. So I think it would depend on how it was done.
Yeah, and does she have it in an expanded or in wireframe? Because there's a
I don't have answers.
You'd have to use the ruler and measure density, stitch length, angle, all that kind of stuff, and try and recreate it.
Which, I mean, it's a good way to learn.
Yeah. Okay, so that's how you create decorative stitches. How do I edit them? Oh, let's just take this chain stitch, right click on it, edit. How easy. Puts it in its own window. Again, the grid and all that kind of stuff can help you. And then, you know, you decide, oh, I want to make a change, however. Once you get your change in place, right click, save custom shape, call it the same name. It'll say, are you going to overwrite it? You go yes, and then you've updated the old one.
Cool. All
right, so that's how to edit decorative stitches, also how to create them. There's another feature, kind of not going to explain it all too much in detail, but we have 50 pattern fills. You know, those are the ones. Close this and start a new one again. Actually, take this fill and change it into a regular fill. And I will pick my whatever I have. Don't forget, pattern fills, satin stitch is what you want to use, and you're not going to see it unless it's in 3D. Pattern fills are basically, the whole thing is a satin stitch, but it has split lines. Split lines tell the software you must drop a needle penetration every place that I put a split line. And so we have 50 in there. You can create your own. Best left for another time. I could spend like 6 hours on just pattern fills.
There is a video on it.
So cool.
I'll try to find it and post it.
Put a link for everybody. You know, the biggest thing with pattern fills is that you use satin, like I say, instead of fill, because with fill you're going to get the needle penetrations that the fill has, plus the split lines that you've told it, and all that can be kind of chaos and make it
after I plug in the computer.
Okay, so we'll move on from pattern fills if we want. Just wrapping this up.
I love pattern fills. I love decorative fills. I love all that stuff.
I know, it can really add such a spice to designs and texture, and there's just no end to what you can do. You want to make sure in your plans that you don't have stitches that are crazy long in your pattern. And so it's best to measure with the ruler or plan it out before you start digitizing with something like that. Okay, so that's the fills. I just want to show you one more example and then we'll call it a day. You can combine regular step fills with decorative fills and create some super cool effects. So I did one for a machine that was 3 models ago, XTS. We did a logo for hats that we used at trade shows. And have a look at this. I think this is pretty cool. Samantha used this in DesignShop Talk.
I was going to say, I just ran across that video too.
So what I did here is first we just do a plain, underlay with the fill, and then from that we just do a decorative stitch. And actually, you can take I used this fill. Turn this on. I actually digitized the first fill and then duplicated it, changed the colors, and changed it from a step fill to a decorative. So I didn't have to digitize the fill twice, right? Like Nate says, what do you say? You always love to cheat as much as possible.
I just say I'm incredibly lazy.
Which is not true, but there is faster ways to get the same results. So duplicate this one, change it, and then what I picked for this one is the honeycomb. That is basically nothing more. I picked the wrong one. Where's the honeycomb?
Is it one that you built for it?
I did build for it. Yes, I did. Undo. So this is nothing more than the pattern for it itself is just, start here, 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 and here.
And then it's the offset that makes it happen.
Exactly. So they would line up straight isn't really good, but at 45 they line up cool. So hopefully you're going to try this and get some super cool results out of it. And if you find anything really awesome, send us a sample to applications@melco.com. Any more questions? Anything we need to add?
Just custom shapes. If you want to reuse a shape but you don't want to save it, there is an option for that. Clipboard.
Save a shape? Oh,
now, if you want to reuse a shape, like I'm going to be doing this a lot, but I'm only going to be doing this a lot for this one file, and I don't want to save it to my custom shapes, but I want to use it and be able to double click and have it paste in and do all those things. You can do that. So underneath the custom shapes icon is another icon for clipboard shapes.
It's right here.
So yeah, so if you go and select something and copy it, it's on your clipboard. You can then use that tool and then double click and paste it around, just like Scott was doing with those stars. You can do the same thing with something that you copied from your clipboard.
Yeah, like temporary clipboard kind of.
Yeah.
Is what it would be. Yeah, that can be quite a time saver. If you get some time and you want to have a blast, you should dive into that special clipboard, because you can take you can do stuff like take a rectangular step fill, take alphabet text, spell out Melco, and then
You
save that, copy it, paste it, use a step fill for the main body of the fill, but then a fill island in satin, and then basically in one pass you will get the fill as well as the embossed letter all without. It's not two layers, it's just one. With pattern fills and stuff like that, there is one other feature called blur outline, which if I have the split selected, I can, sometimes what happens is, since you usually use satins for stuff like pattern fills and all, it wants to pull a gap so you can see the fabric right where the needle penetrations line up. Blur outline will scatter those needle penetrations a little, so you'll still get to pick up the pattern.
Lined up, it'll be just slightly off.
It's like, it looks blurry to your eyes when you turn it on. You're like, where are my glasses, right?
Because but you see less of the fabric right through it.
Right, and you still don't sacrifice the pattern. So blur outline is another feature. All right, well, if we're good, I hope you got something out of today's presentation, and give Custom Shapes a shot. It's quite a good tool and time saver, and good for consistency.
Thanks, you guys.
All right, see you next week.